everybody, welcome to the Monday, July 13th regular council meeting. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome to the new beautiful City Hall. Looks pretty good. Yeah. First of all, we need approval of the additions to the agenda. Has everybody taken a look at them?
I have, and I make a motion to approve them.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. No roll call now, Shar, Just regular business?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent calendar. All items here are listed to be considered routine by the City Council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. So, everybody look them over.
I do have a question on B16. Who are actually going to be the election judges?
The list is in City Hall. You can come and look at it.
Thank you.
Sure.
All I had.
And are they all selected now? I mean, you've got,
Yes.
everybody's there. Okay, anything else? Motion to approve?
I second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on an agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. My glasses are kind of fogging up here as I'm talking, so. Hello, Pat.
Hi. Pat Netco, 36084, County Road 66, Cross Lake. I want to give a big shout out to Ted and Joe Chase for helping out with the flowers on the bridge. We have struggled this year in getting them up. As some of you know, the liners got thrown away. I had to order them, and with all the COVID stuff, it took 3 weeks to get them. So that was a big struggle. And the flowers on the South Bridge do not look as good as the flowers on the North Bridge because the dam is not letting out enough water and the pump is submerged. And Joe Chase, God bless his heart, went down to the river and lowered the pump, and I don't know if Ted already did this once too, as far as it would go. And Corrine at the campground said they haven't seen water levels this low for 1.5 years. So the pump is down as far as it would go, and it's just not pumping up enough water. So I hauled water for a few days to water the flowers, and then the 4th of July hit, and I couldn't get there. And so they don't look as good. They're bouncing back a little bit. And the water is flowing a little bit better now, and they pumped some stuff out of the pump. And Joe got poison ivy in the weeds by the river. So let's give a round of applause for Joe for effort. So I just wanted to give a little explanation of what's going on with the flowers, and that's the deal. Any questions for me?
A lot of compliments, Pat. They look
Thank
good.
you.
Well, the flowers on the South Bridge, I'm so bummed I could almost cry because they don't look so good. But it's a work in progress, and so we're doing the best we can.
Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? Come up and try the new podium. Come on up, Tom.
Maybe this is under TJ's update, but is it possible to get an update on that recent meeting with the Corps on what's going to be allowed at the end of Perkins Road? At some point in the meeting, either when you're going to approve the pay request for Perkins Road or during TJ's update.
Well, let's talk about it. I don't know if you have anything new, but let's revisit it. Okay?
Okay.
Cover it.
And then the other thing, under Mayor's report, discuss improvements to Brittle Lane. I also saw in the packet there's a quote from Anderson Brothers for like $27,000. Depending on how your discussion goes, there's some history for that section of road that I would request to be able to address the council.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Dave, just for everyone that does come up to the podium, because our camera is not gonna see that person anymore, if they could just state their name and address.
Okay.
All they're gonna see is your back. And now they can't even see your face.
What am I supposed to do?
Just say your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
We
okay.
normally do that. I didn't catch it. Anybody else? All right, moving on to the mayor and council's report. First thing is discuss Brittle Lane. So I guess I'm kind of the one that initiated this, so I'll start it out. Brittle Lane, how long has that, Ted, I'm going to pull you in on this a little bit. How long has the discussion on what to do about Brittle Lane been around?
Back in 2005, 2006, when we made the improvements to the rest of Brittle Lane in that neighborhood, it was discussed at that time to make improvements to the rest of Brittle Road out to County Road 36. But at that time, because of not having ownership, the public has no ownership in the road surface. It's all private property. It just died and never went forward. Then this last year, when the county was doing County Road 36, we did ask them for a cost. A few of the residents were wondering about it. It came up at their informational meeting the county held at the city hall. And again, it was, well, over $60,000, like $62,000 to take in. And, you know, the city's not making, we're not promoting it being done because it isn't our property. If the residents want something done with it, it's up to them to petition to bring it forward from there. So I gave them the costs and it just didn't go any further from there.
Okay, so it was brought to my attention that I've heard about Brittle Lane for quite a while, and I've never driven down there. I thought Brittle Lane was your typical dead-end road that went back to somebody's house, and they got to update it, and the city will take it over. That's not the case of Brittle Lane. Brittle Lane is a through street that services, I'm guessing, in the neighborhood of 40 houses. The benefit to the city, to me, to have that a more functional road would be, it would divert traffic from 3 going into 66 into town, because they could take the back road to Reed's, Ace. It would be another, it would alleviate some traffic, which we're all interested in doing. So we got about 500 feet of Brittle Lane that is not improved.
I think the measurement says 610 to be exact, so.
Did it? Okay. I thought it was 570 or something.
Well, that's at least my documentation has.
Okay. So that's what initiated me to get this estimate and bring it forward and see what it would cost. There's a couple of the, not even landowners here, a couple of the concerned people that I want to give them a chance to throw their nickel in the tub if they want to. But that's why I'm saying we got a price of 20, the actual, what is the other road? Pineview Lane? The width of that road deck is 21 feet. This proposal is for 22 feet. I think Schaefer Road is 21 feet.
I believe so, yes.
So Pineview, Brittle Lane, the existing is 21 feet. So I just wanted to go directly to Anderson Brothers, see what it'd be. This is what it is. It's a pretty reasonable amount, and bring it to see if the council had any appetite to move it forward and get it out this way.
The only thing with your code is I don't know what their mix was. I don't know what their size of the aggregate, type of oil. Is it being put over, whose property you're putting over? I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that's more than just getting a quote and going head forward with this.
Well, I've talked to all the landowners personally, and they've all given the thumbs up that they want to do it.
And then they're going to pay for it?
I think it's mostly Ron and Michelle Schmidt's property that it's going on.
Yes.
I believe Tony Marks has got a little bit of it. They're all in favor of doing it. Ron and Michelle did not want to pay for it. No.
Well, that's where it just died before.
Okay, well, so I want to talk to the council about
Okay.
that. and see what-
So may I have us take a look at chapter 42? TJ, can you pull that up? That's a section of our code that describes how to bring a road like this up to city standard so that we can take it. So we've addressed this in our ordinance already. I'm not going to read it to you. You can see it all up there, but it basically says, you know, if it's a private road, the city will take it over once it's brought up to city standard in accordance with the ordinance. And in order to do this road, you would not, in the manner you're suggesting, we'd be deviating from our established procedure already. So
my only argument to that is that it is undeniably a private road servicing a pretty good chunk of public. And that's where I get a little confused by it. Because it is an open road, I believe. Eric, do you guys use that road? Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Chip, if there was a fire back there, would you access that road? And I believe if there was an ambulance call and they're aware of that, I think they'd probably use that road. Ted, do you plow that road?
We should not be plowing. We should be turning around in front of everyone's house.
Ted, do you plow that road?
I don't plow that road.
You personally didn't. Do your guys plow the road?
I am not aware of it. If they are, they're violating what I told them to do.
All right. So let's open this up for a little council discussion. And I guess the first question to the council is, did you guys go and, are you familiar with Brittle Lane? Have you looked at it? No?
Well, not today or not this week. I know where it is.
Are you familiar with it or not?
Yeah, I am.
It's a through road.
Right, I know. It's privately owned. And if we start paying for privately owned roads, then other people that are going to get their roads assessed are going to be unhappy. And this isn't in the budget. And we threw out a road project for about the same amount because it was over by 30,000, something like that. So I think if they follow the ordinance and maybe consider something next year.
My interpretation of a private road is if I were going to put a development back in the woods, call it White Pine Trail, and build 30 houses on there, that White Pine Trail would be a private road going no place else. Where I have a little trouble with this one is it is a thoroughfare that is used by the public. So I guess, I mean, if we don't consider this at all, I would encourage, probably Ron and Michelle are the two, they're not here, but block the road off and see what happens. So I just wanted to bring it up for discussion. Do you have anything on that, Gary? Nothing?
We have an assessment policy. We do not do private roads. I'm with Mr. Schrupp on that.
Tom, please, come on up.
Tom Swenson, West Shore Drive, Cross Lake. And Dave probably remembers this. We ended up putting a turnaround at the end of that road, and the whole thing came from, we tried to get an easement from Ron and Michelle, and they did not want to be assessed. They didn't want any part of the project, and so what we did is we brought it up as far as the right-of-way and the plat went, and it ended. Now, there's a gravel road there that people have used, but the other thing I would caution the council about, I don't think even if you move forward, you don't have the right on that road. Unless they gave an easement or the council condemned it or something, that's private property that, we tried to work with Ron and Michelle, and they were emphatic that, nope, we have access off that little road to our property, and that's all we care about, and we're not going to be assessed. I agree with you. It would make sense to connect that road so you've got an in and an out and a traffic flow, but I don't think you have the legal right until you get an easement to do that, for one thing. And then I guess as a taxpayer in town, the taxpayers, we moved Perkins Road so we could get access out to the core property, and we spent over $300,000 of taxpayer money to move that road for the property owners. There is some benefit, but here again, are we going to spend another $27,000 of taxpayer money to connect this road that should have been connected when the project was done, but the property owners that own that piece of road were uncooperative and wanted nothing to do with it,
Well,
so.
the only change to that to date is Saturday I talked to them, and they are more than willing to convey ownership of the road. I mean, now, they are.
But then I still think you have to go back to your assessment policy and who are the benefiting property owners? If you're gonna, is it another assessment on that whole area back there?
Well, that's
I don't
exactly
know.
my point, though. Who are the benefiting property owners? It's more than just the two people who live on that 600 feet of road.
Right.
That's my argument.
And,
And even extending it to the fire and the ambulance and the police.
yeah,
And that's where, I mean, that's kind of where I think it's a little different than normal.
yeah. I mean, it's okay, it came to the council for a discussion, but I think at this point, if the property owners really want that connected, they need to follow the policy and get a petition, and this should go to the Public Works Commission really before it goes to the council. And this month, the Public Works Commission was canceled, so, I don't know. I guess in the year I've been on the Public Works Commission, this is the first I've heard anything on upgrading Britta Lane, and maybe it's just because the county was doing the road that it came up.
That's when the county was in there, why don't they finish it?
But yeah,
That was all my doing.
that's sort of the history of it, that the city wanted to connect it to County Road 37 at the time, and the property owners wouldn't give an easement, because if they gave an easement, then they would be benefiting, and then they would have been assessed. So that's the history on that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Does anybody else want to say anything to this? Okay?
What information did you need?
Your name and address.
Cassandra Amsden, 14287 Britta Lane. I guess my questions were just twofold. There was some original debate when this came up 15 years ago or whatever about what part of the road was actually legal or not. There is debate about old paperwork, original paperwork showing Britta Lane going straight through where it goes out to County Road 36, and that the current Britta Lane is considered a trail, and that's why it was considered private property. There is a case to be made that the original Britta Lane would have been all public road and would have extended all the way through Ron and Michelle's property, right where they're building their house now, to 36. Some of the discussion before was that in order to move the road, it was harder to move the road where it should have been, but then it wasn't fair to now call the other part a trail and call it private. I guess my next question would be if the current owners just extended the easement that we all have and made it a public easement, would that then cover the problem with the city so you would pay for it? We have a perpetual private easement now. Everybody in Johnson's Pineview does. If they extended the easement to make it public, then would that cover the problem?
Mr. Person, are you out there? Can I pull you into this?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you think of this conversation? Did you hear the question?
Well, it's not complicated to me. I mean, you need I agree with some of the staff comments or public comments. You need a public easement, and we don't typically pave roads for free. I mean, you need to follow the assessment process. It's no different than any other road in the city. How it's used is not relevant.
Okay, well.
So perhaps establishing a public easement and then going through the steps to have our group try to move forward is the recommendation?
Well, I guess you'd have to bring it to Public Works. You'd have to do, is the public easement one of the bigger things, Brad?
Well, it's just two steps. One, you need title to a road if you want to make it a public road. And two, we typically don't improve roads for free. I mean, if there's a benefit to the adjacent landowner, they're supposed to pay for it like everybody else.
I think the concern there is that we all paid for it the first time, so maybe that's a different debate, but. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, I just brought that up for the heck of it, huh? Let's go to the next thing. Anybody else have anything on that? Done? Email dated July 2nd from Mark Stats. Can you put that up? Do I have to read that? Should I read it to the people, or?
Well, hopefully everyone viewed their packet.
Yeah. So this is a letter in concern to the COVID and the lack of wearing masks in town. I don't really know what to say about that. I think masks are probably a good idea in public, but I don't think that we can mandate it and make it a law in town. I think we gotta go under the governor's rule. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. Anybody have anything to comment on that?
Mayor, if you mandate it, then it has to be enforced, and how are we going to get it enforced?
Right.
We don't have the staff to address that issue. Not that I don't want it, I just don't think it's something feasible for us to do.
Mr. Mayor, I took the original phone call on this and talked with him, and we had a really good conversation on the COVID-19 issue. And his primary concern was, he felt, and I don't mean to speak for him because he's not on the line here, but his primary concern was, we need to take this serious and be respectful of each other with respect to wearing masks and social distancing, because he was quite taken back by what he witnessed in our community here. Is that a fair statement, John?
Yes, and I've had other people call me and say, or talk to me, or I've heard secondhand, third hand, that I'm not going in XYZ location anymore because nobody's wearing masks, either working there or coming in. So I don't know if it's a big issue or a small issue, but I know that at least there are occasional people who have decided to go shop somewhere besides Cross Lake or besides certain establishments.
Yeah, his question to me was, there anything the city can do to require people to adhere to the guidelines? And my answer to him was, we don't have the authority to do that. We're really relying on each other to be respectful of their neighbor.
Yeah, and make your choices, what you want to do. You know, we can all make our choice. And you can go out and pick at the places.
You know, I think as a group, we could recommend the wearing of masks, because I've heard the very same comment that Mr. Andrews has said, that they won't go close to these stores. Now, when you get into Baxter and you get, you know, they're wearing masks at Costco, Menards won't let you in.
Home Depot will. I mean, so it's choice, you know.
Yeah.
People, everybody say you have a choice where to go. But, I mean, hopefully we'll all be respectful of it. I think it's real. I don't think it's all a hoax. So we got to be aware of it and do what we think we can. But
Dave, you're saying that we should probably approve recommending it versus making it mandatory.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I don't think we can enforce it.
If that's a motion, I would second that.
All right, thank you.
so that motion is that the city council makes a recommendation
Recommendation
to
that all
people to
businesses,
wear
right,
masks in public places.
right.
People and businesses.
Yeah, their customers and the business employees,
Okay, you got that?
and it's up to them. You know, you look at the news every day, and it's almost like you're in the middle of the forest, and the fire is burning all the way around you. And we're really lucky in Minnesota so far that we don't have the big numbers like some other states.
Well, we are, let's keep it that way.
That's right, I agree.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next, letter from Pat and Netco in regards to the flowers. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, on this one here, I'm going to admit we made a mistake, or Public Works did. When we took the flowers out, I didn't realize these liners that were in these flower baskets. I just thought it was Spanish moss. So when they got thrown away, it was inadvertently when we took them off the bridges last year. We didn't do it on purpose.
So I agree with you, we should reimburse Pat for the baskets also.
Yeah, for that, not the basket, but for that liner that goes in the basket that holds the soil, so.
Yeah.
That's okay, I don't.
Yeah, I know it's okay, Pat, but that's okay. So in here, there was a bill from Northwood for the flowers of 527. She is asking for that to be a check written to Northwood for the flowers.
I so move.
I'll second that.
So we got a motion and a second, little discussion on it. I would like to add to that Pat should be reimbursed for her basket liners.
That's the $227, right?
270, I believe, but
I'm reading 227.
Pat puts an awful lot of work into that and doesn't. I don't know why she should have to dig into her pocket for it. So if you guys would amend that or not, if you disagree, then disagree. But
The only question I have is, Pat, any reason why you wouldn't want $227? No. Okay.
It's not that I don't want $227. I feel that I let the ball drop a little bit as well. Ted and I did not have this communication about when they were dumping the baskets. I didn't know when they were taking them out, and I understood where they were being stored. And so I didn't say save the liners.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's just a little miscommunication, but now Ted and I are on the same page, so we're all good. So thank you.
So I agree with adding 227 to the request to cover Pat's.
so you're going to add that to your motion?
Yes, add it to my
Mr.
motion.
I agree. I'll second that
You'll second
change.
that. So all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Okay, high tech, change order for the door openers. So I got a question. What are the door openers? What do they do? Or closers?
Automatically open the door for someone in a wheelchair or.
I suppose that's kind of standard
It
protocol.
is,
And I think Shar mentioned
especially during elections.
elections, that we need that for elections, or you can't hold it here.
And are they just these doors, or are they police, or, I thought there was two sets of doors?
Well, they want to put one on the outside and the inside.
Okay, so they're both right on the main entry.
And they run on separate buttons.
The two do, yeah.
Okay.
The question is it going to be easy to retrofit them? Do we have any idea how hard it will be to retrofit
It's
those?
about $6,500 worth of heart.
Well, I understand, but I mean, it's apparently doable.
Sean, the old city hall, the old fire hall, we retroed those. We didn't originally have them, and we added that to it. It didn't seem like it was that big of a project for the company that came on and did it. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is there a reason why that wouldn't have been part of the building? Because isn't that ADA?
Is that a good point? Valid point?
To me, it seems like it's just kind of a no-brainer. It's got to be.
High Tech reviewed it, and they couldn't find it in the ADA standards, so it didn't get as part of the building.
Boy, don't put it in and you'll find out from them. I mean,
I thought it was, so but then when they reviewed the standards, they said it wasn't a part of the ADA standards.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to put on the list to talk to high tech about, and one of them is the sprinkler system. That was arguable too in these doors. So, but I think we got to authorize it and get them in.
well, we have. I don't have any question with that or problem with that. I'm just questioning whether we should be authorizing that we take a payment for it. I think that's part of high tech's problem.
I would recommend that we go ahead and we approve this and follow up with high tech, because we have an election
Yeah, no,
coming up on
I agree
August
with that.
11th, and I think you need it.
Yeah.
Andy, want to talk? Okay. You're muted.
Yep, this is Andy Willetsko with High Tech Construction. Good evening, everybody. As what Ted spoke to through the ADA process, having a double door system that meets the ADA, so the electric push button automatic door openers are not required through the ADA, since we abide by the appropriate clearances with a double door system at both the outer door and the inner door. So that is why they were not included in the job. And speaking with city staff, and Shar brought up the the concern with the elections. I have reached out to the state and I have not found anything that specifies elections being a requirement of those electric openers. So that is why we are proceeding with the change order. It is not a very evasive install to do. So that's hence the change order that we provided.
I don't, yeah. So
I
how
make
does
a motion that we,
person get in, Andy, one of the ends? It just seems kind of odd in this day and age that an automatic door is kind of standard.
Well, they are not standard because it's through a public building. Healthcare systems, they may be provided. I have to double check on that. But with applying with the ADA, the push pull of a double door with the clearances on each side, that does meet the ADA.
Oh, okay.
Dave, I make a motion, we go ahead and approve this. I do think it should have been caught in the design, though.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Don't have a motion.
Oh, I thought John just made
I just made a motion to approve it.
I'll second that. Can I make that somebody needs to follow up and show all of us where it says this is not needed?
Then we need to say who we are asking to do that.
Yes. So who can, on the staff, can you figure out, Mike? I'd like to see where, I mean, it seems like it's obvious that it's required. How's someone to get in here with a wheelchair when they can't open the door?
But we're authorizing it to be installed.
Yeah, we'll argue later.
Okay, got it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next one is a high-tech, I don't know what building it is. Pay application number 10. Stay on the line there, Andy. You're gonna leave 10,000 retainage. Mike, I guess the question should go to you or to staff. Is everything complete?
No, everything is not complete.
So what is the list of things that are not complete?
We have quite a lengthy list, Shar has, and I don't have it in front of me, but there are quite a few things that need to be completed yet. One of which is the vents in the floor, the landscaping, the doors, and a few other odds and ends.
So me coming into this meeting tonight was gonna make a recommendation, we pay 100,000 of that thing and keep 51 until it's complete.
I can't speak to the value of the items that are open at this point.
Andy, let me ask you that question. Why are you putting in for your almost 100% of the pay and we've got things that are left incomplete?
Dave, Andy Pickard here. Say we are, our punch list items that we have remaining, there's a few, one being the floor grates, and just a couple odds and ends, so we are, the stuff that we have remaining is fairly minimal as far as value side, so that's where we're sitting with the pay request.
Mike, do you think 10,000 is going to cover what your checklist is?
No. We're still having some discussion on the landscaping, right, Mr. Mayor? We don't know what that's going to cost at this point, or what the value of that is.
I have concern that it's taking time to fix things like the floor, HVAC things. Plays have actually gotten hurt already by them falling through them. And they should have been fixed. They shouldn't have been put in, but once they were put in, they needed to get, in my opinion, handled immediately. I don't know the issues, but it seems to me that we need to have some leverage to get the things done that need to happen. And if they still haven't been fixed, I know that's been outstanding for at least 2 weeks, maybe more.
I think they have been addressed and they're ordered, things take time. I respect that in its
Right.
so.
Do we have a list Mike, do we have a list that lists all these items, and does it have a date alongside each one for completion?
It does not. We're working on completion dates. Shar has been maintaining their list, and that is, as I mentioned earlier, I can't speak to the value of each of those items.
Right. I'm not sure we can approve anything without knowing when it's going to get done.
Well, if you hold money back, that's always a good incentive to get
Uh-huh.
something done, there's no question about it.
Yeah, we'll have to work together on that list then, because I wasn't aware of any landscape items other than just the final seating.
Well, I guess, I mean, I would like to move forward. I'll just make a motion and let it die if you want, but to pay 100,000 of it and keep 51 in retainage until the list is complete. I think that's plenty of money, certainly, to cover anything that isn't done, and it's also sending a message that we want to get it done. So that'll be my motion. Anybody want to second it?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you recall any items that in your mind might be big dollar items on the list?
No.
Okay. I'd second your motion.
Okay, we got a second. So the motion is to pay 100 grand, keep 51 in retainage until the items are complete. The only thing I want to add to that before you add something to it is I think High Tech has done a fabulous job on this project, timely and got it. It's dragging a little bit at the end here. So we want to keep it, we want to get it finished, so go ahead.
And I would just like that list needs to have dates on it. So if it takes a meeting to sit down to get all these things, well, let's have at it and get it done here, so.
Anything else? Good. Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Now we're moving to the fire hall. We've got a billing now we agreed, I believe, to spend 100,000 on design for the fire hall. Is that correct? Going back months? Andy Picard, is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, that is correct. For the fire hall was a $100,000 design.
And then we gave you a $50,000 deposit check to get started? I mean, for the design?
We yes, with what we have completed on the front end, we did some progress payments of 50,000, correct?
Okay, but my point of that is that we haven't already given you the 100 and now you're coming back, because then I would be a little confused where the money is. But so now you're asking for
Correct.
90% of it, another 40,000.
That is correct.
Or, I'm sorry, 40,000 initially, net billing now 50. So, I mean, that seems reasonable to me. Anybody have anything to add to that?
Chief, are you
I think you go ahead and approve the payment, and then I'd like to talk about one other item before we get to item 7. Then.
Okay, but
Okay.
this payment in your mind is good?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I also moved it. So we got a motion to approve
I'll second it.
and a second by Andrews. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
So,
Item 7.
Mr. Mayor, before we get to that,
Yeah.
I apologize for the late request to add this item, but as you know, today we had the insurance people here. Andy Picard was here, and Ted was with us, and 2 representatives from the League of Minnesota Cities, and they brought along their forensic engineer to take a look at the building with their claim. All of you as council members have seen some of the challenges the high-tech team has encountered in that process. But Chip's got some information to show the rest of the public on some of the things they found. I would like to thank the high-tech team for working with the engineers, the league to make themselves available to pull things apart where they needed to so they could do their evaluation. Go ahead, Chip.
Yep, so basically what we did was take some pictures of some of the key areas that they have found once they started some demolition that are concerned to both high tech and all of us here at the city. Go ahead, TJ. This is the city administrator's office on the south wall. The one faces the old fire hall, so that's the exterior wall with the brick behind that. You can see all the mold and the deterioration from water damage. That's a little bit closer up. You can see the sheeting is totally deteriorated and gone. What you're seeing there is a little bit of Tyvek and actually some bricks from the exterior. That's just the whole wall itself from the ceiling down. So all that black is mold. You can stay there. And here we see, this is still in the city administrator's office. The studs are actually deteriorating and are basically falling apart. You just barely kick them with your foot and they came off. This is the city clerk area. You can see all the mold in that area along with some studs that are deteriorated. You can see there the studs are gone. And then this is the police department south wall. There's mold in there as well. This is the garage header facing east above the fire department garage doors. All 6 headers above the garage doors have water damage where the sheeting is pretty much diminished, and then the first layer of the header is gone. They're going to have to replace all of that in all 8 doors, I believe. So there's door 3, and there's the gable end on the east side of the building. There wasn't much flashing up there, so there's some damage up there in the sheeting as well, and possibly some mold up there. These are just some other pictures that we found. This is the northwest decorative post that's outside under the overhang. Obviously, water damage, mold, deteriorated sheeting. And then the one on the southwest decorative post, same thing. Here shows some construction flaws where there's some gaps where water was able to seep in. That is the southwest corner right where the city administrator's office is, so that's one of the areas that the water was able to get in. And this just shows, the one picture on the right just shows some of the deteriorating wood in the framing and the structure of the building. So after looking at those pictures, I just, some of the thoughts that come to my mind. Here we are talking about mold and structure issues that we brought to the council's attention 2 years ago by 5 bugles, and here we are talking about them again. They were kind of put off to the side, and now we're talking about them again. We spent many months with committee meetings regarding City Hall, Police, and Fire. Basically, I want to know what we're doing because right now my fire hall is a mess. And we have a lot of mold in there, and it's not very functional. And we don't have a direction of where we're going. So hopefully, in the near future here, we can find out which way we're going. High Tech did make up some estimates on some of these issues, but I just want to know why these weren't looked at over the past 2 years and why weren't they looked at to understand where this building really actually is when we went through all this construction and building and the building needs and the fire department needs and police needs. Because we did bring this up a long time ago, and now we're finally realizing that it's a real problem. With High Tech putting in additional estimates, the one area of concern of mine is the roof is not in the list that High Tech's presenting to us tonight when we get to that point, and that is one of the causes of the issues of the water damage and the mold. But there is a lot of mold in that building, whether you say yes or no, but throughout the whole building. And it's disturbing that the city employees worked in that environment for as long as they did. That's all I have.
The only thing I would add to that is when the insurance people left today, I asked them, I said, the council's going to ask me some questions on this tonight, or the staff is, what should I tell them? And they said it's going to take them a week and a half to 2 weeks to come back with an extensive report on that. And so I said, what do we do in the meantime? And they said, well, that's really up to you. Proceed as you wish. We first started to see some of these issues. We'll be getting to that in further on in my report, but I guess we're at the point now where what should we be telling staff and high tech to do. Should we wait for that report so we can make a good decision going forward, whatever that decision is?
And the report you're waiting for is what the insurance company is gonna pay for a claim? Is that what you're kind of waiting for?
Yes, I think we should get their evaluation of the building and, working with our contractor, figure out the best course of action. The question that's still pending is insurability, and what would that look like? As Chip mentioned, they still have the roof. They had some concerns on the roof. They wanted to think about that. They also had some concerns about certain areas of the slab on which the building sits on, if it was properly sealed during the construction phase. They didn't have an opportunity today to test that, so that's where we're at. Just for a reference point, the original building was about $1.5 million to build. There were some other improvements put into that. It's about halfway through its life as it stood before we moved out. That's something to consider. And then what we're looking at is, I think, Andy, correct me if I misspeak, but the issues on that high tech has identified for mitigation is about $126,000. That is not in the original.
With the mitigation included.
With the mitigation. And it does not address the roof or the slab that it sits on. So that's what we found out today.
So, Andy, the roof is coming up here. Are there a few leaky spots, or is it condensation, or what do you think you figured out on that?
When we investigated in the attic space, we did not find any real signs of big issues that would, I guess, warrant replacing the roof. We know of the leaks at the west overhang and entrance walkway, and having to address that a little bit. So that was included in our initial proposal to reconfigure and reseal that pitch break on that roof. If it is deemed that roof does need to get replaced, it's a very expensive roof. That there's a lot of square footage there. Just off the cuff budget, I would say is close to $300,000, $200,000 to $300,000, somewhere in that realm, to replace that roof.
Are you talking structure too, or just tin?
That would just be remove and replace of the steel roof.
Keeps going up. We better do it pretty quick. Okay, well, where are you guys going with this? Do you want to cut to the chase, or
Well, I think at some point we need to wait for that report and make sure that we use that to make whatever our decision is going forward with that.
I mean, it kind of sounds to me like you're talking about maybe scrapping the remodel job, tear it down, and build a new fire hall. I'm just going to kind of skip a couple weeks here. It's not my decision, though. Right.
That's a good direction, Mayor.
That's a good direction?
That's a good direction. My big concern here is we're going to pour $2 million into a building and we don't know how long it's going to last.
It'll be a 15-year building.
Yes, and if you look at almost every city or every fire department, that's going up today, it's all made out of precast stand-up panels or blocks. And I'm pretty sure that they tell people they're going to go 50 years on that building. And I'm just not in the mode of spending $2 million and then having some other council, when we're gone, having to spend $4 million on another building. We might as well look at how much it's going to cost us over 50 years versus doing it right. Because nobody's going to tell us that, it's a tough job for high-tech guys to tell us what they think. You know what I mean? As far as where's the mold they haven't plowed through everything that's there. And most likely we're going to find more things that are an issue, I think. And what are we going to end up when we're all done? So, and I know that's a big number, but looking at it in the big picture, we can, we got to get some stuff going in a hurry here. I don't know if Chip has some other cities that you visited that have buildings that would be something you're interested in, so we can get some idea of the rough order of cost. I can look around. I know at one time you talked 2-story, and maybe you can just build one and we could rip half the building down and you could live in the one you're in for another year or whatever, so I don't know. I think we almost have to slow down the project right now, and I don't know what that's going to take.
All right. Well,
that's my 2 cents worth.
Your
so.
2 cents is, you're going to spend $3 million or something to do what you're talking about doing.
Well,
I don't know.
The only other thing, Dave, is it would probably last for 50 years. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. But
so the average cost per year is going to be down, or
I don't know what the citizens are going to think of that.
I think the only comment I would have is, I think we're still talking about sometime maybe doing a sewer, and all this is obviously take shekel. I agree that Dave's, your view is B, that makes the most sense in the long haul. The question is, on the short term, what the Crocs Lake citizens willing to stomach?
I think we need to kind of slow down and get that report that Mike is talking about, and then we need to have another meeting, and we need to specifically discuss that report and the insurability of the building if we move forward with it. With the reconstruction, I think we need to go from there. I understand what you're saying, Dave, and I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying I think we better slow down and make sure what we're doing before we do anything. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
And if the building, for some reason, isn't insurable, then to me, that takes that option off the table.
It may, yeah. You don't want to spend $2 million on a building you can't insure.
So the question might be that, do we want to see if High Tech can just stop what they're doing? Is that an option? So we don't pour any more money into it?
Well, I think what we're asking, what staff is asking right now is to pause until we get that report and then make an informed decision.
Okay, I just want to be clear on one thing. The 125,000 or whatever the change order they did included demolition and replacement of those bad areas that the pictures depicted. Removing and getting rid of and redoing them.
And then that included fixing the roof, am I correct?
No.
No, I mean, they've got some money in roof repair in there, but
Not enough, I'm sure of that.
well, how do you feel about that, Andy, if I ask you that question?
As far as if we push pause for an extended period of time here?
Fixing the roof.
Oh, yeah, our proposal, what we had included is just a little bit of repairs on some of the water damage or water that we knew was coming in. As far as, like I say, if we're going to tear off and replace that roof, it would be at that 200 to 300,000.
So, that's fine. I mean, we're just going to slow it down, but that's probably the smartest thing to do at this point.
But I don't want to pour a whole bunch of work. I'm sorry, folks. I don't want them pouring a whole bunch of work and money into something that we're going to turn around and start looking at tearing down. That doesn't make sense either.
Okay, well, I think when this hits the street, we're going to hear a lot of public opinion on that, and that's fine, that's good. But
What would happen if we said stop at this point and so we can find out in a couple of weeks what we're going to do, Chief?
Well, it's, right now, we're just living out of the garage because the mold is airborne now. So we don't go in past the door of the garage. So that's where we're at now.
Okay, so it's work that would end up being done no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we're not using that part of the building right now, but it makes work much difficult. I'm not gonna send my guys in there or gals to go to the bathroom, or, it's not a usable space at this point, where they're doing the demo.
Do we have to get you trailers or something for now? Because this isn't gonna get fixed in a week.
I have 3 storage units there right now.
No, for people though, for meetings and stuff? You
No,
know, I don't think
we used this meeting last week.
Okay, all right.
Good. Okay, well, it sounds like what we're gonna do.
Okay, well,
Is that a motion or just a go ahead?
consensus is fine.
And can I ask one more question? Are you gonna look at some designs? I mean, just so we have some idea what we're talking about.
Yes, I can talk to, I know Monticello just finished theirs, and then there's a list of others. I can look and get some plans and see what the cost and the size of them are.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that discussion. Again, I apologize for bringing it up at the last minute, but it really was last minute information that we had a better look at today. So with your permission, I'd like to go through with my report.
Go with what?
I'd like to continue with my report.
On the same thing, or?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We still have the discussed date.
I'm ahead of myself.
Yeah, so there's one more item. Discuss date for City Hall Police Department open house.
Oh,
Wait,
number
7.
Dave, we're
Nope.
already 7. Another pay request.
Oh, for 3,900?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And what is that? Just the first payment for the fire hall work?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Is that paid in full to date? Okay, we got a motion? I'll second it. And a second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now, discuss date for City Hall Police open house. So I realize we're gonna have, some issues having an open house here with people, but I think we should pick a date and just have the door. And Eric, you'd be around for that, wouldn't you? Depending on the date, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of thinking of groups of 10 or something could come in the front door and walk around a little bit and out through the police garage or something and just kind of be available for them. That's what
Yeah, if we did something like that, I'd prefer late August right now. Vacations and stuff coming up right now. We have a few of us that won't be around. So on weekends. So
August 20th? A weekday or a weekend?
I'd say a Saturday would be great. And people can be around that, or we can incorporate it. I just talked to Cindy if Cross Lake Days is going to come. We wait until September. And
Well, or we could do it on Cross Lake Days or something too, yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people around, a lot of people out and about can come and see our facility.
And in the front door, groups of 10 or something, and, have
Hopefully.
3 or 4 people here and just walk them through?
Yep.
I mean, that'd probably work.
Yep.
So do we want to set a date for Cross Lake Days, weekend of the Saturday? We did that date.
26th, Cindy?
September 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that chili? Chili kebab. So you're in chili?
I'm doing chili too.
So does anybody in the public see any conflict with that, or would that be a good time? Okay. Okay, so is that a motion? Or, okay. Aaron's making the motion, any second? I'll second it. Gary's got a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Mike, take her over.
Okay, thank you. A lot of times we talk about a lot of problems and we solve a lot of issues, and we always hear about what people don't do right. So, go ahead, can you pull it up, TJ? I mean, it's not very often we get to present good news to the council for staff's hard work. And Ted, you want to stand up? Not that one. This one. Oh. You've got it.
Come on, TJ, you said this was gonna be flawless here, TJ.
Yeah, put it on the overhead.
That looks like my computer.
Oh, he's got it, there it is. We got it working. Thank you, TJ. So what this is, it's a recognition for exceptional compliance with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Say, why did Ted get this? A lot of agencies get this, and it's a little more than a participation ribbon. You know, some people will say, well, Ted's just getting recognized for doing his job. But it's a little more than that. It's complying with all the rules and regulations for making sure the sewage treatment plant doesn't pollute the river. It's operating properly when they do have issues with it, that they're handled immediately, and it's kudos to Ted and his guys for taking care of that. So Ted? Thank you. I also related to Ted, with the recent storm, I got quite a few phone calls of thanks for Ted's crew, including Ted and his 3 staff, Nate, Joe, and Seth, for keeping the roads clear so fire and police can get through them. So great job, guys. And thank you everyone for your patience in letting them continue with their work. The next item on there, I think, TJ, you got this one I saw. Is a thank you letter to police and fire that was sent to Chief Lohmiller. So many of you know, with the pandemic, everyone's been, especially police and fire and EMTs, have been called upon to still continue to do their work. They are considered essential, and they had to find new ways to do the same thing to serve all of you. So this letter is from the Office of the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, thanking both Chip and Chief Lee for their service in that effort. A great job, guys. Close enough. It was actually a little different than that, but it was along the same lines, but civil unrest and helping with the COVID. And I know Eric went over to Wadena one night for stuff like that, but so they've had to do that too. Item E3 is, you've all heard that the governor of Florida is releasing the funds, the federal funds for the COVID, dealing with the COVID issue. Cross Lake is scheduled to receive about just under $172,000 of federal pass-through aid. It's federal money, and it's used to do things that are not in your budget to help you deal with some of the issues of dealing with the pandemic. You know, whether that be equipment or new procedures or personal protective equipment or whatever it was. But in order for us to receive those funds, the council needs to authorize me to complete the Coronavirus Relief Fund certification form. What it really says is, because you're receiving federal money, and anyone who's received federal money through a government agency knows that there's strings attached to it, the state is asking the council to certify that we will follow the single audit guidelines to receive that money. So we're asking for authorization to complete that form, and that you're certifying that we will follow the federal audit guidelines. Okay.
I so move.
I second it.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll work with Chip and Eric to make sure we receive what's coming our way. Item E3A is also related to that, only it's a grant we can apply through Sourcewell. And they're willing to help us in the amount of up to $5,000 to help us keep continuing to be prepared for the COVID pandemic and continuing to work our mitigation plan as it sees fit. So we're looking at some of the tests, you know, the antigen testing and face masks and things like that we'd like to apply for through Sourcewell. So that's what this resolution is asking for. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, it just means we're going to apply for it. Okay?
I just would move that we move forward with it.
Okay, we got a motion. Second?
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're on item E4. When we put the building up, this building, we installed a new security system and a new fire system. What was not included in the quote for the building was the ongoing monitoring of that system. So we're bringing that to your attention and just asking you to go ahead and approve the service contract. It's a 3-year service contract. One is for security, building security cameras. That'll come to about $3,600 over 3 years. That's item E4 for your approval.
I so move.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And one interesting side note on that we had the system up and running for 7 or 8 days, Eric. And we took a direct lightning strike in that last storm and blew about half of it out. So we've got working a claim to get that filed and get that back up and functioning. Okay, the second one you have on is on E5, and that's same company, similar contract, only this one relates to the fire alarm, which we need to do. That one runs about $34 a month. That gets a 3-year contract at about a little over $1,200.
Okay, we got a motion on that.
I move, so move.
Motion is second. I'll second. Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Okay, thank you. Now, item E6 is a memo from the clerk requesting to purchase additional fireproof file cabinets. In this building, we did not put into the design to have a fireproof vault for secure storage for records. While we do have secure storage, it's not fireproof. Real similar to the old one. When Ted's team was moving the file cabinets out into this building, several of them were ready to crumble on the base. In fact, you could stick your finger through a couple of the file cabinets on the bottom and in the back on the sides. So while we do have a claim pending with the League of Minnesota Cities, our need right now to put our existing files away so they are fireproof for 4 fireproof storage cabinets is just under $11,000. And talking with the league, they said, go ahead and pretend you don't even have any insurance for them because you do need to get that taken care of too. So what the clerk is asking for is right now 4 of those cabinets. They're extremely expensive. They're basically a file cabinet lined with fireproof cement to protect long-term records, minutes, all that kind of stuff. So we're asking for your approval to go ahead and order those.
So, Shar, I got a couple questions for you. You got 4 cabinets now. Can you consolidate them?
That is consolidated. In the old building, I had probably 13, and now I would be down to 7. But 4 of them are total.
4 of them are fireproof and they're,
In the, right.
okay, and that's secured.
And part of those 13, not all of them were fireproof, but they were in a fireproof vault.
Fire rated.
And this
Yeah.
storage closet that you have for the files now is not fireproof, but it's sprinkled. The whole building is sprinkled, correct? So I don't know what you got in them, and that's probably not a fair question for me to ask what you got in them, but if you could consolidate them, it would be a good thing. It seems like most things are paperless.
I would say going from 15 to 7 is a great job of consolidating.
Yeah. So you got rid of all the other ones you just need.
I've been working on it.
Okay, well, the necessity is the only question I have in them, but any other comments or questions on it?
I move that we get the file cabinets.
Okay, we got a motion. Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 7. So at our last council meeting, we were given direction to come to this meeting with a proposed ordinance to change how we handle recycling. If you remember, our current ordinance does not address recycling. It just addresses that the properties have to have garbage pickup. So what this change does is it requires the haulers to offer recycling. And then we would do two things here. We would have an ordinance that requires the haulers to provide curbside recycling. And we would also license the haulers and requiring them to do that, an annual license.
I think this is a great idea. I've had several people call me or visit with me and talk to me with their concern about how to recycle what they have because of the change with the roll-on, roll-off. So I think it's a good idea. Most haulers actually do recycling in Cross Lake. Few don't. But I think this would be important to fix it so that people who do have waste hauling would have the ability to recycle.
So my one question I have is, do we have to wait till January to do it?
I think we do, to give the haulers an opportunity to react and to adjust whatever systems they need to do that.
Any haulers are not under contract with the city right now. They're just operating here, correct?
We don't contract or franchise any haulers right now.
Well, I've had a lot of people call me too. I mean, the public wants to recycle, so.
Yeah, if any of you are interested, there's a really good council meeting, if I can promote that, that addresses just this issue and what the county's plans are going into the future. It was on May 19th, I believe, of this year, and it was on the committee of the whole. It's about an hour and a half long, where they talk about recycling and all the issues that go with it. So this was one option they promoted. Okay.
I move that we move forward with this ordinance.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's move on to item 8. Item 8 relates to the recycling. It's an approval to publish the ordinance amendment related to solid waste and recyclable materials and disposal in summary form. So we can publish that so people can take a look at it.
I move to approve.
Okay, got a motion? And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, finally, last item under my report is we need to, well, we're working on the budget. We're not ready to present it to the council. I know Ted and Dave are working on finalizing the road plan for that, but we need to get some budget dates on the calendar, some budget meeting dates. And so we're looking at Thursdays, and we're looking at July 30th, August 13th, August 27th, and September 10th, all at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. We can have more meetings if we want to, or we can have less, but we need to at least have a couple.
Those dates are good for me.
I so move.
July 30th doesn't work for me. Okay, that's fine. I can't be at the July 3rd. I don't think I can be at the August 27th either.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so in preparation for that, I'll be sending information to all staff. I've got a lot of it already. And then if you have comments or concerns on what you'd like to see, be sure to either send them to me an email or give me a call or stop by. We can incorporate your comments into that process right up front. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Eric?
Hi again. You have in front of you a memo from me regarding the radio booster system amplifier for the new building. As it was being built, we could start to see that there was going to be some issues with reception with the 800 megahertz armor system. When there's no reception, there's zero reception. And as I've been sitting in here, I've been getting what we call bonked a lot, which means there's no reception at all. And we knew it was going to be coming, and Granite Electronics wanted to have the building done before they came in and gave a quote on what it would cost, because things were changing in the building, walls getting put up and different stuff. The original quote was for $17,000, and that would have been 3 antennas, one in the police department, one below us here in the EOC, and then one over for City Hall. City Hall doesn't use the radio a lot, and the reception would be better still if there was just the 2 antennas. We got it down to just under 14,000. So I'm requesting that we spend $14,000 to have that system put in. The EOC is non-operative if we don't have it.
Eric, does this affect the cell phones also?
For FirstNet cell phones, yes. For our FirstNet communication, it will boost that.
So you're okay with it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Question, and I'm for having you have this. The question I have is, I just ran a test on the Wi-Fi here. Is there some level of
Will the Wi-Fi help?
that you're going to get with this, or you're going to find out that you got a corner that doesn't work? I mean, are you going to? I don't know how they're going to measure the performance of this.
If you hear that, that's me getting bonked right now. There's no reception as I'm standing here. It will cover the building. And they'll test it to make sure, yeah. They walk through the building to get the reception or lack of reception and sent back a report regarding. So it's going to be much better. I mean, the old building had it too, but it wasn't as bad.
This is normal with that radio system. And if you don't boost it, they'll have nothing, especially in a storm. When you open up EOC, I mean, you'll have nothing down there without it.
We typically run off the Emily Tower for a lot of Cross Lake, but the Jenkins Tower covers us too. So say the Emily Tower goes down, then we're going to have nothing in this building.
I was just thinking of if there's some measurement that's similar to Wi-Fi. You can upload at a certain speed and you can download at a certain speed. Maybe more faster speed.
No, that's not the same type of system. I'm really getting blocked right now, right here. So, that's what I'm asking for.
I'll move that we purchase this and do the addition as soon as possible.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion with a second. Gary?
One of the things that might come into play is this grant money that could come in, and that could cover the cost of this. Chip has a little bit more information regarding that and what other things might be able to be used.
So the CARES money that Mike was talking about earlier, this antenna system would be covered by that federal grant monies because it's helping with COVID to have radio communications within this building. for him to be able to function. So we'll be coming back to you with a lot of other different options for that funding, because it has to be COVID related. But this is one of them that would lie under that money.
Good, okay, so we got a motion and a second, I believe.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. So, last week with the storms that came in, I can't see with my mask on. We had some sirens sirens were set off. We know that 2 of them prior to that were not working, and one was a very old system from the 90s or the 50s, and the other one is that Tamarack? That was Tamarack, is the 1950s one, and then Velvet Lake, we're waiting for parts. And there's a delay in the parts due to COVID and manufacturing and that whole thing. So we're waiting for that. The Little Pine one up off of County Road 3, which a lot of people were upset that did not go off. Well, Ted had an electrician out last week on Friday to take a look at it, and we took a direct hit from lightning on that one. That's why that one did not go off. So I think they ordered parts, and those will be replaced. Yep.
And I just want to make a comment to the council and to the people of Cross Lake. The sirens that are outside are not to be, you don't rely on those when you're inside your house. Those are for people that are outside, swimming, running, doing whatever. It's not intended to notify you if you are in your house. Okay, it's just for when you're outdoors to let you know that severe storms are coming.
So would it come over your cell phone if you were in the house or if you were outside? Those alarms?
You need to subscribe to some type of notification or be part of Everbridge or some other access.
County site, and you can get on Everbridge.
Yep, you can get on Everbridge and it'll tell you.
Okay.
One other thing that people should know in the city of Cross Lake, and I think John Colstead is the one who brought this up to Mike this morning, is Brainerd and Baxter have 8 between the 2 of them. Crosby's got 1, Breezy Point's got 2, 50 Lakes has 1, Emily's got 1. Cross Lake has 11 sirens in the city to cover our area. And the reason for that is because of, we're 37 square miles, but 18 of it is water and outdoor activities. So like Chief Lowmiller said, these aren't meant for inside your house. It's a bonus if you can hear them inside your house, but you can't rely on them. The one on County Road 3, no one knew that would have a lightning strike and would go out back in May or June. It worked. So, and the next day it might have taken a lightning strike. We don't know.
But you do test them the first Wednesday of the month.
First Wednesday of the month. Mm-hmm. But we also have 11, so we can't get to every siren. So we rely on our citizens. If it didn't go off, if they normally heard it on that first Wednesday of the month, it'd be great to know that it didn't work.
And a lot of people will call me and tell me it didn't go off. And we usually get the electrician there as fast as we can. It's a fuse that went or whatever, but we can fix it today and the fuse can go tomorrow. It's just, we don't have a monitoring system that tells us that something happened to it.
Ted, I was going to ask, you called me once to have me stand by one of them when you were testing, and I was busy. Is this something that if we look out to the community, there's a lot of roads that people adopt to keep them clean? You suppose there's some residents that wouldn't mind, once a month on a Wednesday? Could you just be there and you monitor, and if you don't hear it, then you call Ted? Could we try to get residents that would help you with that rather than...
I have a lot of residents that do
Okay.
on a regular basis what they do already.
All right.
They take great pride that it's working in their areas.
All right.
I think one other thing we can say about the storm sirens is it is an aging technology and aging warning system that, you know, we have much better warnings coming through the cell phones and TV and computers and whatever, you know, application you might be running, weather radios, and we can't really rely on the storm sirens as much as we used to.
I mean, and remember their electricity didn't run. Power went out in that storm, and most of them would have got off because the power wasn't there to run. So.
That's all I have, unless there are any other questions.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Hey, TJ.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Item 2A, you'll see a memo in regards to park dedication recommendation. The Cross Lake Park/Library Commission recommends to City Council that cash in lieu of land be collected for the Newman lot split.
I agree with that. I move.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
Item 2B, park updates. As many of you know, the pickleball and basketball court facility is completed. We've seen a large group of people use it pretty much every day since it's been open. The pickleballers have been using up all 6 courts. The basketball courts have been very popular. A lot of positive feedback, which is awesome to see.
Oh, it's great. It looks fabulous.
Also, the tennis courts, all 4 of them have been resurfaced. So pretty much that whole facility over there is technically brand new. I came back on Friday, July 3rd. I had to put up a couple tennis nets. And when I arrived at the court facility, all 4 tennis courts were being played on. The basketball court was being played on. And all 6 pickleball courts were being played on as well. So it was pretty cool to see that amount of use on our facilities and that the money we put in towards them, it's gratifying to see that they're being used. So it's good to see. And just to touch base on what Tom recommended, we talk about the Perkins Park. I believe we talked about this before the previous council meeting, but me, Dave Shupp, and Mayor Nevin, we met up with Crean at the core property. We discussed pretty much the history of the park, what was planned or what was developed in the past, and kind of where we can go from here. It was pretty much a consensus that we have to do 2 things before we move on. That is, come up with a solid plan that the Corps agrees with, aligns with what they have set in place, as well as perform an archaeological study on the land itself. So that was pretty much what we received from Crean, other than we, again, talked about what that land is there for. It's low-level recreation. So I take what Crean told me, and I took it to the Parks Commission. We discussed, again, the history and what we want to see right away. A couple examples of that would be a porta potty, maybe a developed parking area, and that's pretty much the extent of that. Maybe a couple picnic tables. But what I've been tasked to do, we've discussed the budget meetings. I'm currently developing a plan that I can bring forth to these budget meetings, and we can come up with a concrete plan that we can talk to the Corps about and then perform an archaeological study. So that's kind of where we are in that.
Moved on that archaeological study at all?
We have not moved on that. No, that has to be approved by council before we enact on that.
I think a picnic shelter of some kind, Corinne was also in favor of.
Right. And what the commission was discussing, maybe we just start with the parking area, start with a few benches, get the ball rolling, and then we can build on that in the future.
But she was pretty receptive. I think Mr. Schrupp was there too. And
yeah.
We left that meeting feeling pretty good about how she felt about it. So.
And I do want to clarify, there's been some misunderstanding in the public. I've been receiving some calls. When I talked about this before, I brought up what low-level recreation is and what you could put on that property. I said, I went over what Crean gave me, and I touched base on boat ramps and docks. That was just what you could put there. The Parks Commission highly discourages that idea just because there's already a large amount of boat traffic there anyways. So I just want to make that clear. And that's all I have unless you have any questions for me.
Yeah, TJ, that's what I've been getting calls on. People just don't want boat ramps over there because of the late night noise and the partying. They felt it would change the whole structure of the surrounding houses, and people have already have property there, so.
Right, and we have addressed that, and we've talked about signage, and we've talked about if we do put in a permanent bathroom facility, we wouldn't put that close towards the lake because that would entice the boat traffic. We would put that more closer to the parking lot vicinity, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor, you ready?
Yep, please.
First item on my part of the agenda here tonight is I have a quote from Linescaping Line Striping. And I removed, if you see my mark off to the side, it would be an amount of $14,610.50. And that would be to stripe the streets, crosswalks that we do annually every year. This is in my budget.
It is in your budget. That was one question. And why did you credit 2,800? What was the credit for? Did you just take some
They
off?
were doing Manhattan Point in their bid, and that's actually being done as part of the seal coating of the road.
Okay.
So I just removed that part of it.
Okay, well, I don't see anything
I
with
move that we approve this.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
The next item I have is a pay request from Borden Excavating for $59,185. This is for Perkins Road project. I don't know if you got anything to add, Dave?
Have they got any, they had the ditches dug and everything was roughed in last time I was there? Is that, are they waiting for something now?
I'll give a brief update. So they've stripped the topsoil, they've completed the rough grading, they've gotten some of the class 5 placed on that road in preparation for making the transition from the present roadway that everybody's been using to get them switched over to the new road after we get the concrete work done at the west end. So this pay estimate is a partial payment estimate for the work they've completed to date.
And what is the total, including this, that we're paid them now? Was 440 or something was the price?
449, yeah.
And 78, is that the first one or second one?
This is the first pay application.
Yeah, well, I don't see any problem in that at all. Anybody have any questions on it?
No.
I'll move that we pay the bill.
Okay, got a motion
A second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is for Deschantel Excavating for the water quality project at the bottom of Manhattan for $78,372.14. And again, this is the first pay request from Deschantel too.
Mr. Reese, I got a question. What are they doing besides not punch?
Your question was, what can they do?
What are they doing? They moved in there Memorial Weekend, put up barricades all over the road, tore up a bunch of dirt, and they're gone. They've been gone for 2 months.
Right, yes.
So what are they doing?
So what they've done most recently is they've done some subcutting to get the ground level down so that they can install dewatering points and wells to lower the water table so they can get their ground support systems in for putting in the storm scepters. Okay, and they've been struggling with groundwater and getting that level down. They're going to have to look at their dewatering plan and come up with something that's a little more aggressive to get the water level down. That's the means and methods, that's their responsibility. We've had progress meetings with them to see about how they can get their system working toward the substantial completion date, which is July 30th. That's coming up quick, and we're not seeing a lot of progress. So we've asked them to give us the updated schedule and give us how they're going to go about it.
I kind of heard a whisper of them asking for an extension of time. Is there any truth to that?
They've hinted at that in the progress meetings about asking for an extension of time. We haven't actually gotten one from them. They have to submit that to us. And at this point in time, they're thinking it depends on the dewatering progress, if they can meet the substantial completion date. That's a lot of work to do.
If any of you guys, are you familiar with that project at all? John, I know you drive by.
I go by it every other day or whatever. I'm just impressed how little is happening and how little progress they seem to be making on watering, dewatering, and how many times there's nobody around.
Yeah, I mean, even the attempt to do it. And I live right there, so does John. We drive by it 10 times a day. And
right.
An extension of time is going to be kind of hard to go by me. I don't know how these guys feel, but by me.
Right. Well, there is a liquidated damages provision within the contract so that if they don't meet the substantial completion date, there is some recourse for the city council to consider. Usually that involves taking a look at, what actual damages the cities are having or experiencing because of the delay. And usually that's
I've got some
added administrative costs and costs to the city because of the project or, because it isn't completed by that date.
Do you see any concern with where they dug out that one manhole south of the site for that, they're going to drop a tank in there?
Right.
And they've got a dewatering tank in there right now, but they've got that cut down 10 feet right at the curb all the way down, traffic going by it. Is there any undermining or concern of any kind there?
I have stopped myself and looked at it on several occasions, even when we got the big rain, I was worried that the curb line was going to fall in. They're ultimately responsible.
But I mean, why they would dig that hole and not get the tank in there and get it backfilled on a road like that, it just blows my mind.
And it's all, they gotta get the water out of there to be able to dig it down and get a solid base for it, so.
I don't know how the conditions can be used that could be worse than anticipated when the sandy soils are like they are. I mean, I don't know.
You'd have to drive over to work with.
Yeah.
I think it's I believe it's a manpower issue there. But I'm
Well,
not
I kind
certain.
of believe it is too, but I don't, now they're coming in for pay requests and I'd like to see a little performance. They got a big mess going on down there and they got pipe stuff spread all over the place, but nothing getting done.
Part of this pay request is for materials on hand that have been delivered to the site.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I've been sitting there.
But materials on hand is a valid request for payment if the material's in good shape and it's been delivered to the site. So we would recommend payment for that.
Okay. But I would like a little update or recommend to you to find out what's going on with them because we're 2 weeks away or so from completion date and it's never going to happen. I don't know why they go in and start something and then they leave. They kind of historically do that. So that's all I have to say about it.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to pay them, but I agree that I've seen minimal action.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, the next two items on there for council information or for public information on where WSN is with all of the projects and where Bolton and Mink is with the sewer and the storm sewer. So it's just for your information, for you to read at your time.
Okay.
With that, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, jumping into public forum. Do I have to read the whole thing again? No action will be taken here, Marcia.
Marcia Seibert Bolts, Cross Lake. I have a question. Since we're going into budgeting for 2021, I was just wondering, last year you levied 3% above your budget amount for unforeseen expenses. Has the council spent that? It was over $100,000.
Well, can you answer that, Mike?
We've spent some of it. It'll depend on how much of is covered by the COVID response plans.
I'm sorry, what?
We'll be applying for some funding through the state for the money under the COVID preparedness plans. So we don't know how much of that will be allowed at this point or not.
Okay. So when will we know if you've spent that or if it's going to go into reducing the tax levy next year or carried over in the budget?
When will we know that answer?
Yeah.
Not today.
Okay.
We'll have a better idea of it when we go through the budget process and determine how the council wants to allocate funds for the coming year.
Okay, I just hope that the council would take that into consideration, that you budgeted 3% more than what you needed for your budget for this 2021.
2%?
3%.
3?
Yep. You needed 6.15% to cover the budget, and you levied 9%. And the other thing is, I was wondering, did we budget for dual wages on Ted's salary or for his trainee? We're not training anybody, I assume, since there's been no application.
His funds were reallocated to up the crack ceiling and the chip ceiling.
So
At a
those
previous
funds went
meeting.
into crack ceiling?
And chip ceiling, yes.
You increased the crack ceiling budget then?
Yes.
Okay. And then I only have one other concern, looking at the pictures of the old city hall and all the mold, and there must have been something done wrong because that shouldn't have occurred. And I think maybe the city should look at adopting the state building code, or at least for these building projects, maybe get a certified state building inspector in, so those kind of things don't happen. I don't know how long that city hall was there, but maybe if they would have had a building inspector in there and made sure that those things, I don't know what went wrong or anything, but maybe that's something that the city of Crest Lake should consider. Hope these walls don't have mold in them as soon as the other,
I think, yeah.
the other building.
Quite a few things done wrong at the time, 25 years ago or
20 years ago?
25.
Yeah.
How old? 25?
1994 is when the building was first moved in.
So,
96 was the city hall.
so 26 years ago, yeah.
So I don't know if that's a consideration at all, to make sure that you have the building done right, to have a certified state building inspector come in on those kind of projects, if you don't want to adopt the state city code or state building code. So just a thought.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Marcia. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Person, do you have anything for us?
I had no report.
Okay, new business? Old business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.